Hey guys, Jim here with another video for you. This is 50 Years in Film, 1994. But before we begin, at the end of this video, if you like what you see, please give me a thumbs up, a possible subscribe, and most importantly, leave comments below. I really love hearing from you, and I would really love to hear from you as far as the films of 1994 go. Now, I've teased in a couple of my previous videos that 1994 is bad, real bad, and I stand by that. I seriously didn't realize how bad 94 was until I started doing this series. And a little peek behind the curtain, I always go on IMDb and the numbers and Box Office Mojo and several other places to get my research done for these. And just going down the list of years, or the releases chronologically through the year, I didn't even grab a title from that year until April. I just want to give you an idea of what came out that year. How many of these movies have you even heard of or even remember? Okay? Car 54, Where Are You? Lightning Jack, Monkey Trouble, Jimmy Hollywood, Threesome, Cops and Robertsons, Bad Girls, Chasers, Three Ninjas Kick Back, Clean Slate, I Love Trouble, Lassie, In the Army Now with Pauly Shore, The Next Karate Kid with Hilary Swank, Police Academy Mission to Moscow, It's Pat, which is probably the worst Saturday Night Live film ever made, and North from Rob Reiner, which has the most famous Roger Ebert review of all time. It simply said, I hated this movie. Yeah, this is something I don't ever do. I'm going to actually mention the films on DVD that I have from this year because I only have 14 titles on Blu-ray for this entire year. On DVD, I have The Mask, Time Cop, Interview with the Vampire, Maverick, and Blown Away. And that's the one with Tommy Lee Jones. The rest of the year, in my eyes, isn't worth buying. So this is what we got. We got 14 titles. Not all 14 are bad, okay? There's some really great ones here. There's some all-timers here. But, my God, this is a bad year. So we are going to do things completely different with this one. We're not doing what we normally do. We are going to jump around from genre to genre, but we're going to mix it up. So for this particular video, we're going to start with sci-fi. And we're going to go with Star Trek 7 Generations. This was the crossover film with the original cast and the Next Generation cast. Shatner and a couple of the other members make early appearances, and then Shatner shows up halfway through the movie. I don't like this movie. It feels like a crossover. The next installment, First Contact, is much better. Then we've got The Puppet Masters, starring Donald Sutherland, Keith David, Yaphet Kotto. The movie's got a great cast. But this is a Body Snatchers ripoff, pure and simple. That's all it is. It's not a horrible movie per se, but it's definitely not great. But again, Donald Sutherland, I'm a big fan of his. So that's The Puppet Masters. Then we have No Escape. This is kind of an Escape from New York ripoff, starring the late, great Ray Liotta, co-starring Lance Henriksen, Kevin Dillon, Ernie Hudson, and Stuart Wilson. This is a fun movie, but again, it's not great. Then, see, I told you my Dracula was coming in, but that's not the one we're talking about. We're talking about Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, directed by Kenneth Branagh, starring Robert De Niro, Kenneth Branagh, and Helena Bonham Carter. Again, decent movie, well made, not great. I prefer Dracula. Then, boy, Phantasm 3, Land of the Dead. Now, according to this, it says 1993, but I double-checked on IMDb and a couple other sources, and it says 1994, so we're going with 1994, and quite frankly, I needed another title to pad the list a little bit more. But again, I like this movie. I don't love it, and I certainly don't like it as much as the earlier two installments, but there are things in this movie that are really fun, and they brought back Michael Baldwin, who played Mike in the original. James Lee Grow played him in the second one, and Reggie Bannister's still great. Now we're going into the action. And for my Jack Ryan collection, Clear and Present Danger, starring Harrison Ford and Willem Dafoe. I like this movie. Outside of Red October, this is my favorite Jack Ryan movie. It's a solid action film. And then we have Surviving the Game, starring Ice-T, Rutger Hauer, Charles Dutton, and Crazy Gary Busey. Unfortunately, this is the last Gary Busey title I have on my list, so you might not be hearing Crazy Gary Busey for a while, but he is crazy in this. This is basically another version of The Most Dangerous Game or Hard Target, but it's fun, and it's a well-made movie, and it's got a great cast. They're all having a ball. Gary Busey has a speech in the middle of this movie that reminds me of the speech that Quint gives about the Indianapolis in Jaws. It's about a dog in this particular case. And apparently he ad-libbed that entire speech. Yeah, Surviving the Game's fun. It's not going to win any awards, but it's fun. This one's great, though. Leon, the Professional. Directed by Luc Besson. Starring Jean Reno, Gary Oldman, and Natalie Portman. And if this isn't Natalie Portman's movie debut, it's got to be one of her earliest performances, because she is just a child in this movie. The great Danny Aiello is also in this movie. This movie's awesome. I actually had this on DVD, and I just upgraded it so I could pad the list on this video, because this is one of the movies that's definitely worth an upgrade. Great movie. And then Speed, starring Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock, and Dennis Hopper, directed by John DeVant. Speed's an instant classic. Sure, it's Die Hard on a bus, but it is so entertaining, and it's one of the best action movies from the 90s. That's the last action movie from this collection. I will be getting True Lies. That has not been released. It's getting released on Tuesday, I believe, and as soon as it does, yes, I will definitely be picking up True Lies. But this is where we're going to switch gears, because we're still going to go to different genres, but I'm doing it a little bit different. 94, there was some big things that happened in the year of film in 94. It started a couple of years earlier with Reservoir Dogs, with the independent film movement, and El Mariachi. And then Kevin Smith came out with a little independent movie called Clerks, starring a cast of unknowns. He maxed out every credit card he owned and made Clerks in the convenience store that he worked at. They filmed it at night while the store was closed. Clerks immediately struck a chord with the youth at that point, the kids of the 90s. They could relate to it. And even though I was 27 years old when this movie came out, I related to it. Randall working in the video store especially, because I worked in a shitty video store, and believe me, I had the same stupid customers he had, and I could relate. And so many times I wanted to do exactly what he does in that movie, but never had the balls to do it. But Clerks is a great movie, and it was the introduction of Kevin Smith. Now, some people don't like Kevin Smith. I do. I think he's great. Some of his movies aren't the best, but Clerks certainly is one of his top tier movies. And has become a classic. And then in a different direction, The Crow, directed by Alex Proyas and starring the wonderful late Brandon Lee. Brandon Lee, of course, passed away on the set of this movie in an unfortunate accident. And when this film came out, I gotta admit, I went with a certain morbid curiosity, and I was blown away. The Crow is a wonderful movie, and Brandon Lee gives a wonderful performance, and only God knows what may have been. I'm not saying he would have reached the heights of his father, but he definitely had the charisma of his father. Rest in peace. The Crow is a great movie. Then we're going to switch over to winner of Best Picture that year, Forrest Gump. Directed by Robert Zemeckis, starring Tom Hanks, Gary Sinise, and Robin Wright. Forrest Gump is a great movie. Don't get me wrong. Okay, I love Forrest Gump. It's a classic. But it had no right winning Best Picture that year. And here's why. The Shawshank Redemption, written and directed by Frank Darabont, adapted by the Stephen King story Rita Hayworth in The Shawshank Redemption, starring Morgan Freeman, Tim Robbins, and so many more. Some people say this movie's over sentimental, it's schmaltzy, whatever. It's a perfect movie in my eyes. It's the perfect Stephen King adaptation. I cannot find any flaws in it. I love The Shawshank Redemption. In my eyes, this movie should have won Best Picture that year. It's the best picture of that year. But if that one didn't, Pulp Fiction sure as hell should have. Written and directed by Quentin Tarantino, starring John Travolta, Samuel Jackson, Uma Thurman, Bruce Willis, Christopher Walken, and a cast of so many others. Pulp Fiction is one of the greatest movies ever made, period. It's one of the best 90s movies. It's iconic. It single-handedly changed cinema for the next 10 years. People talk about Halloween ripoffs and Jaws ripoffs and the like and Alien ripoffs. Nobody got ripped off more than Quentin Tarantino. When this movie hit, for the next 10 years, all there were pale imitations. Some good, some not. Okay? I'm not saying all those movies are bad, but none of them match Pulp Fiction. It is Quentin Tarantino's best film, and it's one of the best films ever. I love Pulp Fiction. And as bad as 1994 is, there's at least 5 or 6 absolutely great movies that will stand the test of time from this year. So it's not all bad. But quantity is just, it's not there. But Pulp Fiction almost makes up for it. This is a great, great film. So that's it for 1994. Again, I had to tear the Band-Aid off and get it over with. 1995 I will be posting in a couple of days, and I'm also going to be posting a couple of other special videos this week, so stay tuned. But as always, I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, please give me a thumbs up, a possible subscribe, and most importantly, leave those comments. I cannot wait to hear from you. So until the next time, have a great morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time it is. Have a great one.